There it goes. What's going on, everybody? Jacob Snow here, bringing you the third Legends of Albadyn podcast. Third or fourth? Fourth Legends of Albadyn broadcast. My bad. This time, unfortunately, we are without Shalzier, but we have our merch mug, the Better Roll Sixes mug. Link in the description below. A couple of important things have happened over the past few days with Legends of Albadyn, and I am here to tell you about them all. So, first off, the season has changed to Season of the Spider, one of my favorite seasons that we've done so far. Big things are happening in Legends of Albadyn. Some of the loot that you can secure from Season of the Spider, completing the seasonal event, is bonkers. Absolutely amazing. And we have our first recorded clear of the Silk Merchant. I ran it, solo play, and impossibly enough, I was actually able to beat it. I really didn't expect to. It was really tough. There were several encounters that kind of made me do that thing where I look at myself in the mirror and go, "What were you thinking when you made this?" But I was able to beat it. There's a bat rep on the site, which details how it all went down. Crazy stuff, my dudes. Crazy stuff. So the Silk Merchant has been defeated, so she won't be returning as a seasonal boss. We might make the Silk Merchant run a raid unto itself, but as a seasonal boss, the Silk Merchant is toast, and that is exactly how I wanted that to go. Really glad it happened. There are still 18 days, 19 days left that you can beat her for yourself, you and your playgroup. I encourage you to do so because the loot that you get from the Silk Merchant is nothing short of some of the best items we have ever put in the game. And please reach out and let me know if you beat the Silk Merchant. How many people you had at the start, how many people survived, and how many rounds it took. I'm curious if anybody can beat my time of 11 rounds. Which honestly is a lot considering I went through with 7 adventures. It took a really long time. A party of 10, like a full party, probably be able to make short work of it. So really excited to hear about how you guys do in Season of the Spider. Talking points. What have we got? So the midpoint talking points, because that's what I'm calling this podcast, is the midpoint. Midpoint talking points are as follows. We've made a couple of updates. We haven't made a post about it or anything like that. And I decided, hey, why not do a podcast? It's a great idea. The first midpoint talking point that we're going to talk about is the priest class. They're a returning class. They were present in 2nd edition but got removed in 3rd edition because honestly the priest just felt weak. They needed some retuning, some rebalancing, and we gave them that rebalancing. Priest as they are now. Really good, solid support class. If you take them into battle, you're going to need a really good weapon because they are absolutely a glass cannon. They're just glass if you don't optimize your build, but they are a glass cannon. So the initial run on the priest class was that they are a... Hold on a second, gotta find the stat block. They hit on 3s, defend on 5s, have 2 abilities. The first ability is as follows: Shelter of Light. All allies get 2 true damage reduction 2 for 2 rounds, usable once per battle, which is exceptional survivability tool. Protects your party from most low-level spells, and can protect your party from damage entirely if the rolls go your way. Ability 2, Bind the Wicked. All enemies get -2 from their attack rolls for 2 rounds, usable once per battle. That's just mind-boggling how good that is. However, as a brief aside, their debuff, due to the fact that they have to wear the priestly raiment, is that they cannot buy or equip armor. Now, if something counts as both armor or trinket, depending on where you want to slot it, you can have those, but you can't have something that's just armor, like breastplate, shadowy Vakaton, anything like that. And the update that we did, just to really bring the support class forward in terms of capabilities, is we added their ability to learn support class spells. This is a big decision. This is a decision I thought for a pretty good while about. But as the priest is one of our few dedicated support classes, I wanted to really bring them forward. And similar to the buff that we gave the physician class just recently, which reduces the... I'm so dumb. Which reduces the power cost, not power cost, just the gold cost of potions. I wanted to give the priest something that made them as a support more viable. More interesting to play, too. We've had several people play physician, which is really an interesting thing. But usually people gravitate more toward the combat classes, and so I felt the need to incentivize support, especially as a couple of the parties I've played with recently have no meaningful support. They just roll. We'll have enough mid-range and DPS characters that we won't need healing, which almost resulted in a TPK every time. So the priest is now probably one of the best, like probably a top tier class in terms of where they're at power level wise and balance wise, because they're not absolutely insane. They are very good at what they do, and if you optimize your build, they can be absolutely bonkers. But even if you don't optimize your build, they're still a very good class, which is something we have to take into account. Not everybody is going to be like me and Shalzir and just obsessing over build optimization. This is how this character needs to run, so these are the skills that we need to do, this is the gear we need to grind for. Not everybody's going to do that, and I don't expect everybody to do that, and you shouldn't have to do that to enjoy the game. So in terms of balance and perfection, the priest is now right there with the knight and the fighter in how little optimization you have to do on your build. The next midpoint talking point, and probably one of my favorite things that I've ever had the privilege of adding to the game, is we recently added the loot system. This has been a long time coming. I've been trying to crack this acorn for a couple of years now, and fortunately, over the past several weeks, I've actually had a steady play group, and I was finally able to, through them playing, figure out how to implement a loot system. So the loot system has been implemented. You can find this information for yourself at the bottom of the item shop tab on our main menu. And what it does in all of its glory is there will be 2 rolls at the end of specific types of encounters. And those encounters, you've got to have at least 6 monsters present, and at least one of those monsters has to have had 6 or more hit points at the start of the encounter. So you're not just going to be able to go into Wandering Hero quests and go grind it, and just spam it for the loot. We're not making a Destiny loot cave. It's from a specific difficulty of content that you're going to have the ability to loot the battlefield. So how the loot system works is you're going to have 2 rolls to loot the battlefield. The first roll determines which loot table you will be rolling for with the second roll. The loot table determines what kind of loot you can get. 1 through 3 is the normal loot tree, which gives you some gold, some healing potions, or a normal item. 4 and 5 is the legendary loot tree, which can give you a legendary item, a bigger amount of gold, and better healing potions. And 6 is the mythic loot tree, which can give you a normal item, legendary item, some gold, some power, or a mythic item. That's right. Optimizing that out means that the perfect loot roll for early game is double sixes. Better rolls for mid to late game would be getting free healing potions and stuff like that, but early game you cannot beat getting a free mythic, especially if it was an encounter that had all of the requisites but wasn't really the most difficult encounter. Oh, double sixes, beautiful. So the loot system makes it to where you don't always have to be, okay, so this is how much gold I need to get that, and this is how much gold I have, so I'm going to be grinding forever. You don't have to worry about that as much with the loot system implemented, and it increases the rewards you'll get from late game activities, such as Season of the Spider, running the Silk Merchant. You will trigger through the loot table no more than 3 times. And the loot you get from the Silk Merchant herself is the end of encounter loot, but she doesn't meet the prerequisites for the loot system, weirdly. But the loot system is here now. It is awesome-tastic. I encourage you to check it out. It is really good, really fun to design, and it's really intuitive how it works. It's not a lot of bookkeeping on your end. You just got to know what you're rolling and what you're getting. The third midpoint talking point is we've added some new skills. Now, these skills are essentially there to add a little more technical gameplay, I guess you could say, for melee classes and tanks, DPSs. Spellcasters just got massive rework with Season of the Tower, which was exactly what they needed. Spellcasters have never been this fun or this balanced. I'm having a hard time keeping my mouth. It's not just an excuse to show the cup, I swear. These skills are Feint, Quick Thinking, Disarming Strike, and War Cry. Feint is an ability that lets you, once per round, re-roll a failed attack roll. Makes sense from swordplay perspective, and it adds a good balance to someone who has a low attack speed due to a powerful weapon, like a Warhammer or something like that. They only have 2 attacks, they miss one of them. You just feinted, and you can re-roll it. Quick Thinking allows the same effect, but with once per round a defense roll, allowing you to re-roll, which means you think to dodge it or know how to block it. Disarming Strike is one of the only skills other than Impale that gives a non-spellcasting class a lasting debuff to deploy on enemies. By you make a single attack on a 4-up, it hits, you roll for damage, and their attack speed is halved for the rest of the encounter. Very solid, especially if you stack it with a spellcaster using Flare of Light. It is possible to quickly eliminate an enemy's ability to attack, which is luridly, beautifully, insanely good. And the third ability, War Cry, is one of the only skills in the entire game that allows you to buff your allies without having to use an illusion or support class spell. And what it does is it boosts their damage per... wait, is that what it does? Hold on, don't worry. It's a very new ability. Okay, it's another debuff. My bad. Rallying Cry is a mythic skill. That's where I got it confused. My bad. Like I said, it's a brand new skill. I just implemented it night before last, so I haven't had time to commit it to memory yet. War Cry is another mass debuff for enemies. All enemies have to roll a die. If the result is 4+, they are stunned. It's usable twice per battle, and all of these come in in the low end of the power cost. Feint and Quick Thinking both cost 10 power. Disarming Strike and War Cry cost 15 each, which means you can pick up these literally the instant your character has been created, and you can use them to either increase your survivability in the early game, which is a problem that tanks especially have had playing Legends of Albanon, or to make yourself more integrated into supporting your party by debuffing your enemies. Really good skills. Really glad we added them, and looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with using them. Touching on additions, we've added 3 new 5th circle support spells. Yes, we went there. Now, these support spells go along with the fact that priests can use support type magic now. These spells are called Sanctifications, and they are extremely high level magic that is taught by the temple. The 3 Sanctifications are as follows. The first Sanctification, Martyr. Martyr allows you for 3 rounds to have triple HP, and whenever an ally would take damage, you take that damage instead. If you happen to survive these 3 rounds, your HP returns to how many hit points you had when you first cast Martyr. So let's say you cast Martyr at full health as a human. That means you had 12 hit points, now you have 36. If you manage to survive all 12 rounds, but not all 12 rounds, all 3 rounds, but you're down to like 2 hit points, when Martyr ends, you're back to 12. So it will heal you if you survive it to your starting max HP, or however much you had when you first cast Martyr. The second of these spells is the second Sanctification, Judge. Also, 5th circle. Choose 2 enemies. They take 20 damage each. This is an extremely powerful spell, which is why it's in the 5th circle. And it pretty much allows you to just nuke any enemy with 20 or less HP, which is really good for torment dungeons or end encounters on raids, where you can just smack a boss in one of the mini bosses that they happen to have with them. And the third Sanctification is Purifier, which removes all negative keywords from allies. This means if they're stunned, if they are bleeding, all of it is gone with the third Sanctification. Each of these cost 50 power to add to your character, and each of these cost all of your action to cast. Meaning that when you cast Martyr, that's everything you do for your turn. When you cast Judge, that's everything you do for your turn. Same with Purifier. These essentially allow you to have either really overpowered offensive tools, or to increase your party's survivability to absurd levels in endgame content, which is why they're 50 power apiece, is because of how exceptionally, insanely, banana bonkers good they are. If I had Martyr during my Silk Merchant run, I wouldn't have had nearly as difficult a time with the Silk Merchant, and I wouldn't have been nearly as worried going into the last Silk Merchant encounter, where a couple of my characters were pretty low HP. Martyr is the ultimate in survivability, and Judge is the ultimate in removal, meaning that just because you're playing support doesn't mean you're completely devoid of DPS. And if you're wanting to play someone who, like, you're playing your priest, and you want them to be able to have a little bit more offense in their wheelhouse, there is now a support spell that can do that, and does it extremely well. And Purifier is just really solid support play, but it's not as insanely busted as Judge and Martyr, simply because it is more focused on support, not on survivability or damage. Sanctifications are really cool. Really glad we added them. Really excited to get to use them outside of testing and see how they integrate into the game as a whole, and how they integrate into builds as a whole. Really looking forward to that. And that's pretty much all that we've been up to lately. We added the loot system. We've got our next season barreling down on us. We did move the seasonal change date from the 15th of each month to the 1st of each month, which was an ease of access tool for us and you. So you're not having to go, okay, it's almost the 15th, and it's it got a little weird in scheduling. Especially as we are barreling down on August, which will be Legends of Albadyn's 5th anniversary. That's right, Legends of Albadyn, in a couple of months, will be 5 years old, and you have no idea how awesome it is to me that my game is picking up steam and has been growing consistently for 5 years now. Really happy to have shared it with you. Really happy to have you on this journey with me. And really happy to keep making the game grow. If you guys want to talk about Albadyn, have any questions, have any suggestions, anything like that, you can reach me on a multitude of platforms. We are on Reddit, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, and we are on Gmail. All of the valid links will be in the description below. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you guys for checking out our website, for playing the game. It's been a great 5 years, y'all. I'm not even kidding. And until next we meet, may your journey continue.